Hello world. It's the Nitty Gritty Show. It's May 7th, and we got another exciting show for you. Got Stephen Powell with us again, so we're excited about that.
SP gonna have to become a regular up in here.
Yeah, I know, right? We about to be having him on at least once a month, right?
Wisdom, brother got that wisdom.
And of course, we got another great show for you guys today. We're going to kind of continue our conversation, at least where it was going when we left off of Shea Moisture last week. Great conversation. We liked a lot of the feedback we received as we was going over that topic. A lot of people were engaged in that, and we was happy to see that level of engagement. Big thing. Keep those things going. These are the things that make us strong as a people, so definitely appreciate it. Today, we're going to kind of talk about some of those black standards, black privilege, and there's some things within the community as far as maybe some standards we might put on ourselves. Obviously, it's an array of different thoughts up here. We're going to hear all of those, and it's going to be fun. It's lots of fun. Of course, you know, Steve is back once again to introduce you guys who may not have tuned in last week, but you're tuning in this week. Stephen Powell's from the D.C. area. He's a D.C. area-based photographer.
Facts.
And also founder of Welcome Home, and a campaign to help with homeless families within the D.C. area and Baltimore areas. So big up to that mission. We appreciate him. And that's what's up.
A round of applause for that.
Yeah.
Doing this thing in the community for sure.
And of course, I'm Jay DeCosta.
I'm Katniss.
I'm Tay Jordan.
And we are the Nitty Gritty. And I'm definitely happy to have y'all back. And we're going to jump right into it. We have a lot of content to go over, so we're going to start jumping right into things. But of course, we always do a to hell with and a blessings to. Now, to hell with, I mean, that's like an obvious. I think everybody already know what we're about to say. But the repealing of Obamacare. Y'all Bamas. Especially some of y'all Bamas that voted for him.
That's an understatement.
Know, like, I'm trying to be nice with my words. But y'all Bamas, you know who you are. Especially y'all Bamas who don't have a health care plan. Like, I can understand some of these military Bamas that might have done it because they got all kind of Medicare for life. But some of y'all broke folks living in, I don't know where, anywhere USA, and y'all were relying on the government for health care. Y'all stupid. Y'all some Bamas. I'm just calling you out. To hell with the repealing of the Obamacare. People are going to need health care. It's crazy. And a lot of folks are going to suffer as a result. But Trump is making progress, according to him. He's making progress, whatever.
Yeah, man.
That's, anyways. And then we had a blessings to. We didn't even come up with a blessings to.
I got a blessings to.
You got a blessings to, Tay?
I got
Bless
blessings
somebody,
to
please.
my hometown squad. Blessings to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yes.
Most
Okay.
notably,
That's
Mr.
sweet.
Hey, King James. Got them brooms out
216
today.
forever.
Get him out of there.
8-0 in the postseason.
Yes.
It's nothing. My man's averaging, what, 36 a game?
36.6.
36
killing
and
it.
8?
Most
Yeah.
points in
Man.
the playoffs since Kobe Bryant
Was-
in 08.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He's off
He's
to
a
a hell
beast.
of a start, man. And I read a post today. If you guys are not on a basketball room, make sure you add the basketball room
Yeah,
on
please add the
Facebook.
basketball room. It gets live in the basketball
It gets
room.
live, and I had to go in today on some guys talking about, oh, Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the league. Stop it, man. Your brain shorter than Leprechaun. LeBron ain't dead, so let's stop the press and let's respect greatness as we witnesses. We are all witnesses,
Absolutely.
all right? So blessings to Cleveland Cavaliers and
Yeah.
LeBron James, hometown
I
kid.
agree.
That's
I
what's
agree.
up.
I
I
like
rocks with that. I rocks with that all the way. That's the business. Steven, do you want to shout out a blessing to anyone today? While you're here, sir?
Yeah. Since I'm probably not going to be here next week, I just want to give a blessings to all the moms out there and
That's
those
what's up.
playing the role of mother to anyone under their care. So happy early Mother's Day to all the moms out there and anybody
Amen.
playing that role. So that's my blessings
Blessings
too.
to mamas. Dear
Absolutely,
mamas.
I like
absolutely.
That. I like
That's
that.
what's up. I like that. That's a good one, Steve. So considerate. Real gentleman out here.
Consider it Steve.
Now, we're going to go ahead and get into the show. We got a video for you. Actually, we got a couple of videos today, but we're going to play the first one. Jacob, roll that video for us, sir.
One Illinois couple says they want to solve what they call the crisis in the black community. They want to, as they say, buy black. The African-American couple from Oak Park travel farther than they need to in order to make purchases from black-owned businesses.
Good to have you both with us. What got you doing this, guys?
Well, actually, this pledge came out of a conversation that happens in a lot of African American black middle class households. We're talking about ways we can give back to our community, and for us, we were just very frustrated with the asymmetry between all of the awesome black talent, all of these wonderful black resources that's approaching now $1 trillion in black buying power, and what's actually reinvested in and represented in our community. So our frustration with that asymmetry, and are just wondering if we just try to support black businesses, maybe we can do something to give back to those underserved communities we care about and come from.
A Chicago couple is conducting an economic experiment. They're trying to make all of their purchases from black-owned businesses. Here's the question, can they do it? Here's another question, should they do it? CNN's Susan Rosegen has details.
We also need some shrimp.
Maggie Anderson better have all the items on her list before she leaves the supermarket. Because if she doesn't, it's a long way back. Anderson has to drive 20 minutes from her home to the only grocery where she'll shop, the one that has a black owner. She'll also drive out of her way to eat at a black-owned restaurant, get clothes cleaned at a black-owned dry cleaners, and keep her money in a black-owned bank.
You know what, she's...
Maggie and her husband John have made a public pledge to try to buy only from black-owned businesses for 1 year. They call it the Empowerment Experiment, empowering black communities by supporting their businesses. Critics call it an experiment in racism.
We're not advocating that anybody make purchases along racial lines. Okay, that's not what we're advocating. What we are advocating, though, is that African Americans do have a higher sense of duty to support black businesses that are investing in the community.
A bunch of farmers best in there, the grocer, and...
3 months into their 1-year experiment, the Andersons admit they have not been able to buy everything they need from black-owned businesses. Not even close. The biggest monthly checks for the mortgage and utilities still go to anonymous, faceless corporations. But the goal is the same.
At the end of the day, this is just about people, in the African American community getting their representative share of the American dream.
How do you...
All right.
It's
So
good stuff. That's
yeah,
dedication.
Yeah, I like it. And, some of the things we want to kind of look into is, and I'm going to open this up to you guys. I've already been running my mouth long enough. But, feelings about that, what's kind of holding us back from buying black and supporting black businesses, give me your thoughts, people. Give me your thoughts.
Want to start it off, Kat?
Okay. I like the Andersons model. For the watchers who are watching the show via Facebook Live, the Andersons decided for an entire year that they were going to dedicate themselves to buying nothing but from black businesses. But what they ran into is that once they started, it was very hard to keep up because their electric bill or their mortgage had to therefore go to a corporate company, and it was really ambiguous as to who was the owner of these companies, but more than likely probably wasn't somebody black. I think as black people, it would be very essential for us to buy black because that helps generate dollars back into the community. Most black businesses that I know of are in neighborhoods that are predominantly black, and I think it creates a sense of unity in the community. And I'm going to compare it to foreigners. Here in D.C., whenever I go to like a Ethiopian spot or a Vietnamese spot, I always see people from that background, supporting that business and giving back to their community. And it is, it sometimes perplexes me. It's like, well, why doesn't African Americans do that? My family is Jamaican American, and one point I want to raise is that shout out to Daly's in Cleveland.
Hey.
It's a great Jamaican restaurant if you haven't checked it out. But the Jamaicans in Cleveland are really deep, thick as thieves. Like, we support one another. Anytime there's a funeral, free catering events, we just support one another. And I feel more connected to my Jamaican side because of the support system than I do sometimes to just being a regular African American in America.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's Katniss. That's very interesting that you said that, and I'm happy you touched on that because I think that's an important narrative to speak about. I think that I'm not a Jamaican American, but just looking at other groups, it seems as though African Americans, in particularly, we lack that unity that you speak of as far as Jamaican Americans, and not just Jamaicans, it's Asians, it's Haitians, everyone but African Americans, at least from my experience, seems to have a little bit more care and concern about each other. And I think what's profound about this and their method is that, first of all, it's commendable. But I think why a lot of us don't do it is that, generally speaking, we just don't care enough. You know, so you know, driving 20 minutes away, that's dedication, that's discipline, that's commitment, and that's something, generally speaking, as a whole, we as a people just do not have. And I know that's a bold statement. A lot of people may get offended by it, but it really was not a statement for people to say, well, I don't feel that way, I'll drive 20 minutes away. You're one person, but from, generally speaking, from a large standpoint, we don't have those numbers. We don't care enough. We're not unified enough to actually put in the effort that it takes to actually go out there and say, and commit to yourself to say, I'm a shop black, I'm a support black. When we say we support black, a lot of us want a discount, you know. So it's a whole lot of reasons why that it doesn't really happen. And then some things we can't escape. Like they mentioned, like certain things that you have to pay for, necessities in life, such as a light bill, stuff like that. Us as a people, we don't own these structures that we need. But if you can shop black, you know, your local grocer, your local, you know, you want to go get tools or hardware, whatever you need, you know, look into it and see what black vendors you have that's, if not in your area, maybe not so far out of your area that you can patronize, because I mean, we got to be able to keep our dollars in the community. Everybody else do it but us. So it's like, it's 2017. When are we going to start?
Yeah.
I think today would be a good start. So I'm very, I commend, you know, the Andersons for doing what they did, and I got to take a page out of their book. And, you know, a lot of us got to put the onus of ourselves, not to just talk about it, but to actually be about it. And it's like, we got to look at ourselves. It's like, you know, can I do more? Am I doing everything that I can to keep the dollar in my community and, you know, help those and support those that look like me? Because I think that's important. A lot of us, we're very in the middle or indifferent. And once we kill that indifference, then I think, you know, we'd be better off.
Yeah, so a couple things in that video stood out to me. One, I remember that story. I think it was either from late 2011, 2012. One thing that really stood out to me, and has nothing to do with the Andersons. It saddens me that it has to be an experiment, right? That particular practice has to be an experience to buy black, and the whole thing about it's racism. I mean, we're going to hear that at any time we want to promote us, it's going to be racist, right? So, I could care less about that. Another thing, and I don't know if any of you all noticed, but in the piece, there was so much emphasis on the distance she had to travel. So when the reporter said she has to go so far, and then she said 20 minutes. Well, most grocery stores are within 20 minutes if you live in a suburban neighborhood, whether it's white, black, or not. So you can see from a media standpoint how they're shaping it out to be such a trial and tribulation for this family to go out of their way to buy black. Another thing that I wanted to point out too, their experience was really, really more about the circulation of the black dollar, right? So that was in 2012 or 2011. It's 2017 now. So in the Asian community, I think both of you all mentioned that, the Asian dollar within the Asian community stays in circulation about 2 weeks, so 17 days. In the black community, that time was cut down to 6 hours. So we really have to take into consideration what that experiment was about. It was an experiment to show us this can be done, even with the fact that they do have to pay these larger conglomerates for basic utilities, but buy black where you can, because that dollar needs to circulate, right? So I remember, and I'm going to let someone go out there and make this last point. I remember there were at least, in my study, 2 Black Wall Streets that we had in America. There was one in Durham, North Carolina, in the 50s and the 60s, and there was one in Oklahoma City. And the one in Oklahoma City was ransacked. It was ransacked by law enforcement and the Ku Klux Klan, which in those times were one and the same. So we've done it. We've done it. Yes, in small communities, but we've done it. So it is possible. It doesn't have to be an experiment. But yes, I just that's my thought on that. So Juan.
I mean, definitely have a lot of thoughts on it. I mean, we should definitely try to support our own. We don't see enough of it, but it goes a step further. And this goes into some more questions I'm going to ask of the panel. But what we tend to see is that, I think we all agree. Like, there was no variance of opinion here, right? We all believe we should buy back. I think that's where you start seeing the variance of opinion. And maybe not on this forum, but definitely, to our listeners and those watching, various conversations I've seen on social media or just in the barbershop, where we congregate. And what I've seen is that people like the idea of buying black, but when it's actually time to do, and then, for instance, you know, and we're not going to harp that over too much, but a good example is like Shea Moisture, right? They make one mistake, and we're not ready to buy black anymore. And you have to wonder, in the Asian communities, do they get upset that one time they had bad customer service and they say, you know what, we're not eating pho here anymore? I doubt that.
The
right?
Asian community actually makes products, or I should say services, that actually service people outside of themselves as well. And I don't think that their community gets, you know, you don't hear outrage and big.
Exactly.
Hair stores.
Yeah, hair stores.
Hair
stores. I mean,
stores.
I just got my nails done. right down here on Georgia.
The hair and beauty cosmetic business actually is a $1 billion industry, and the Asians or I think Middle Eastern control 80% of it.
And they come after the black dollar.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you look at it from that standpoint, it's very interesting. And that's what I said about the exclusivity versus inclusivity and the conflicts that a black business owner has. But getting back to topic, I think that we should support ourselves and do our due diligence to do that. But like I said, it goes to my initial comments, it goes back to actually having that care and concern and that actual desire. And I think that a lot of times, like I said, we're just indifferent to it. A lot of times, us as a consumer, we don't really care. We just care about the product. We don't really care who makes the product when we really should care, but we just don't. And I don't know how we can necessarily change that. I think discussions like this can hopefully inspire people to actually care where their dollars are going. One of my favorite one of my favorite rappers had a very interesting line on DJ Khaled's latest album, and he was talking about, you know, our dollars is putting their kids through college. We need to change the socioeconomic equalities, and part of doing that is circulating our dollars between people that look like us. And that, like I said, I can't stress enough, that goes back to actually giving a damn. And that's just is what it is.
But I also find it sometimes unfortunate that when you do have black owners, there was a recent event in Cleveland that I heard or was reading. I think it was a girl. She was a young girl. She opened up like a weave store where you can go in and you can buy bundles of hair, and they robbed her. They robbed her out of all of her hair. And I hear situations like that before, and or people who are doing well, oh, you selling out, you acting different. And or another example is we can go to a cheesecake factory and sit and wait half an hour, maybe an hour for a seat, but the moment you go to a black-owned small establishment and you wait 15 minutes, oh, they were ghetto.
Yeah.
They weren't professional because they had us waiting 15 minutes. Or even the Shea Moisture situation where he messed up and now we're ready to jump ship. I think that as black people, it's good to have standards, but have a standard in which if you do make a mistake, you're showing your fellow man or woman grace. And you are explaining to them things that maybe they need to improve upon, but allowing them the opportunity to still be a business owner in the community. And then if the community does show you grace as a business owner, then you would then in turn maybe exactly, maybe you employ somebody's son, maybe you show them how to start a business. I believe it was told by one of my Asian friends, they have classes in the Asian community that shows you how to obtain a business license, and they even give you money. I forgot what it's called when they give you money, it's like a pot of money to start your business, and then once you've got your business set up, you pay into the pot, and then the next person in your community.
That's group economics. I mean, and that's what it has to come down to. I mean, one hand washes the other. You know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and that's. We as a people, we gotta have a more unified front, and I don't fault us. You know, you can go back to, you know, it's systematic of why we think and the way we look at each other. We gotta change. You said something profound there too, in terms of we gotta the way that we look at ourselves and how we, you know, to strike out like with the Shea Moisture, like, oh, they ghetto now, or oh, we not supporting them no more, let's snatch our support. But we would never snatch that support from like other companies. Like so, it's this narrative as far as how we look at each other. How it's easy to steal from each other. It's easy to knock each other. It's easy to, you know, ask for a discount. The audacity to even do that. We wouldn't do that when we walk into an establishment down the street that's not black owned. But I don't know if it's a comfort level. We feel as though, oh, we all black. Oh, what you mean you in business? You don't do this. Like, I was talking to a little kid last week, and he was about 13 years old, and he was so surprised that his teacher was black. He was like, we don't teach. So it's the same thing as far as business. Maybe we look at each other like, what you call yourself having a business? We don't do that. we got to look at the way we, how we view each other too, and why we feel so comfortable to ask for a discount, to steal from each other. When we don't do that, we know that's not going to fly with other cultures.
I agree with you 100%. There's such hypocrisy in this argument about black businesses. Like we take it easy, and forgive me for going too woke here. We take it easy on the system or the oppressor, but then we're so hard on ourselves. So you'll wait an hour at Cheesecake Factory, but you won't wait 15 minutes for some curry and roti down the block. Like, we're in Georgia Avenue, right? So I'm from here. So I this whole street, before I was born, I'm not that old, used to be all black.
That's right.
So I find it really weird how we talk about what we're not going to do, how much we're not going to pay, but we go out here and we're not going to bulletproof glass door and trust somebody in the back to make our food that doesn't look like us.
Some chicken wings at that.
So you're willing to knock on a bulletproof glass door from a person who won't touch you, right? They're afraid to be in the neighborhood that they're servicing, and that's okay with you. So I just think that's weird to me. So I agree with you 100% what you're saying.
We gotta stop having such comfortability in a backseated condition as well. And like I said, it goes back to looking at the way that we view each other and view ourselves. Like, if I view myself as just a customer, that's what I'll always be. And if I just see myself as being a consumer to certain people, and I get into it with some of my loved ones about this, like certain comments really upset me, like, that's why I go to the white people, because it ain't ratchet and they know how to treat customers and stuff like that. And but we are put up with the same trash and people, like you mentioned, that don't want anything but our dollars and don't want to be in our communities, don't want to give back to our communities. We will pleasantly patronize their establishments, give them our hard-earned dollars. Like I said, send their kids through college, all that and the other. But when it comes to supporting us and people that look like us, we silent. We're just not there. I don't know what it is, what it takes to give that push to support. But I don't know. I'm at a loss for it.
And that's another thing too. Like, we're not even silent. Even if you don't support, just shut up. Right? Like LeVar Ball, he got a pair of shoes out for $495.
And you see how many black people knocking him.
So it's like this, right? If Nike came out with the same pair of shoes, same design, everybody would say, "Well, I'm not buying those. These are too expensive." But because he's black, I'm not buying it. These are too expensive. And how can he do this? And this, that, and the other. And his son's not. It's always some extra stuff, some extra commentary to when we do certain things. So if you don't even want to support black business as a black person, all you gotta do is be quiet, because you're really making it difficult for other people
stop
to
being
try
a pessimist.
to progress.
Exactly.
Crabs in the barrel is aggravating and annoying to me.
Yeah, that, and I just want to say, it really does hurt my heart when I hear of young people and or people in general really trying to have a business and thrive, and people rob them or talk badly about them and hurt their business. Because at the end of the day, what we don't understand is that whether we're related by blood or not, we're all connected. And when it comes to the system does not discriminate against you're a light-skinned black or you're a dark-skinned black, or your ancestors were from Nigeria, your ancestors were from Jamaica. At the end of the day, you're black.
Exactly.
And when it comes to the system, they're going to still yet oppress you because you are black. So the moment that we can understand that and learn to love ourselves and understand the bigger picture of, even if your business is not up to par to the standard that I would want, I'm still going to give you my dollar, because I know the importance of what your business can do for not only a generation behind me, but for the community that I live in now. I mean, we have to make the decision now to get involved, now to support black businesses, because once we do that, this can create a standard that the generation behind us can then take. And imagine 50 years from now, if we did support black businesses now, what that can look like in 2050 or 2070. I mean, we have to think long term. We can't just think about day to day, your one bad experience. Shea Moisture, he messed up, but I'm still going to buy Shea Moisture.
Yeah. I had a question, because the interviewer touched on this in the video we watched. This whole thing about reverse racism, he brought up, well, they're going out their way to buy black, but should they? Or is that like a reverse racism type thing? And that's one thing that really annoys me as well. So why do we and I think a lot of black people think like this, like, oh, I'm not going to go out of my way to say black. I don't want to be looked at as a radical or extremist or be a reverse racist, which is not possible, by the way. Racism is a power structure, but that's besides the point. So my question is, black people that wants to be neutral and indifferent, and I don't care. I just want a better product. I don't really care if it's black, white, orange, yellow, polka dot. Okay, I get it. But at the same time, why do some black people feel as though when they commit themselves to black, buy black, support black, then they feel like this uncomfort thing? And is that a fear of upsetting the majority, or is that a fear of, I don't know what that is. I can't put my fingers on it, but it's been something that's been bothering me since adolescent. I just don't understand why people, specifically black people, feel very uncomfortable with boldly saying it's black. Like, I'm going to support black, and that is what it is. Like, I don't know what that's about. Maybe y'all can give me some insight.
Well, there's definitely a thing there. I think that deals with like black privilege. We're actually going to touch on that too. And actually, it kind of segues to our next conversation. And I think we're going to start pulling some more from that, Tay, with this next clip. It's about dating, but I think that's a broader conversation just outside of businesses, right? About why we're just afraid to be like, I like black, or, you know, it's black. I mean, and there's nothing, and be unapologetically black.
They want to say it, whisper it, like,
yeah,
oh, I'm down with what you say. Like, I run into people in the streets all the time, like, you know, I really like what you're doing with the black. Why you gonna tweet and share my stuff then? Like, what's that about? You know, so I think a lot of people just, you know, like those ghost followers and stuff like that. People be ghosts for the cause. Like, you know, I'm a hooray and ha, and, you know, cheer you on in silence. But I ain't about to. I don't know what that's about. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. Like, and I think until we get past that fear, then we gonna still be where we are, which is in a backseated condition.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And we're gonna touch some more on that too. We're about to play another video too. I know this is about to get the temperature's about to rise real quick. It's like a nice cool 62. I don't know if it's gonna be that way here in another 3 minutes. Jacob, we got another video. If you could play that next video for me, let's see where it goes.
Researchers analyzed 2.4 million heterosexual interactions on the app Are You Interested? Users were classified by their gender and race. Men responded 3 times more often than women. The study revealed that men replied most to Asian women, with the exception of Asian men, who responded most to Latino women. All women, except black women, responded most to advances from white men. White women were twice as likely to respond to white men than black men. But white men preferred most other races over white women. Black men responded most to women of different races, even though black women were 3 times more likely to reply. A similar OkCupid study also found that black women are the least replied to group. 1 in 2.9 men respond. However, they are the most likely to respond, a quarter more often than other women. White women, on the other hand, were very selective, even though they were the second least popular female group. White men respond 20% less often than other men, even though they receive the most replies, 1 in 3.4 women. Overall, Latino men and women were in the middle and received average response rates. South Asian men have the lowest response rate, only 1 in 4.8 women. Second least popular were black men, while third least were East Asians. However, East Asian men received nearly equal responses as white men from Middle Eastern women. Middle Eastern women are overwhelmingly the most popular group. 1 in 2 men write back. Middle Eastern men are the least picky, responding 49.7% of the time. The most selective demographics were South and East Asian women, who responded only 25% of the time. Overall, users tended to date within their own race, with the exception of Asian women. However, users who were approached by someone from a different race logged 115% more interracial exchanges than those who weren't.
All right. I felt the temperature go up already. It's about a good 65 in this mug at least, right? So, you know, this kind of follows up with what we were just saying. it's interesting. And when you watch the video, there's some key facts I want to bring up, and then after that, we're gonna start shouting and screaming. We won't have to necessarily shout and scream, but I noticed that from the statistical data presented, it seems like black women are just not being loved. And I think we've seen that with the Serena Williams controversy. We've seen that with various women who date outside their race, but we've seen these women locked to multiple men of color, but those relationships didn't go anywhere. And we're not in those bedrooms, we're not in them homes, we don't know what's going on. But it's interesting to see that information. And then, there's an issue. I will say this. There is an issue with us loving ourselves that we need to just deal with. I have daughters. So, obviously, I want them to feel love and appreciate it. And I think we just don't show that enough to our women. I think the how we objectify our women and some of the rap videos from the 90s to 2000s, I mean, even now, it's not good. And it put out an image of our women that wasn't positive, and now the backlash is they're not getting that love. And I thought it was interesting too that Middle Eastern women right now, according to this study, are the ones kind of getting all the love. And I feel like that's a direct reflect of how we've worshipped. I want to use worshipped the Kardashian family, who have done everything in their power to look more black, fuller lips, big butts, thighs, stuff that they didn't naturally have. And it's something funny. Sinbad said this in an interview. He said it's amazing how all the sisters in the world are trying to look like our black women. And now black women are getting booty implants, fake breasts, lips, and everything like that to compete with women that were trying to look like them in the first place. So it's a lot of things we need to address there. I want to hear... Let me hear from the sisters first. For the brothers, because at least kind of like tag back, But, sisters, how do you feel about that? You could point out different things from the video, but how do you feel about this lack of love that obviously sisters are getting? And, what would you want from our brothers? Or, what do you think is the lack of?
Trina, you want to start that off?
You can.
All right. Yeah. Well, Juan, you hit on some good things, and I'm happy you took the perspective that you took in terms of. I put the onus on black men. I think that.
What? Okay, no.
I mean,
I'm just messing with you.
I think that you guys. I don't like to speak in generalizations, but if I can just say, play a numbers game here and just say from a massive standpoint, I think that was really the narrative that's in the media, at least. Black women are not appreciated by our own, so I think that makes you way more vulnerable or open to be less desired by others. If your own don't respect you or find you less desirable, then it's very easy for others to do the same. I think that a lot of black men have really gone out of their way to, and don't get me wrong, this whole saying, love sees no color and it's not about race, it's about love. I get, but why? I feel as though a lot of black men go out of their way to chase not black. Whereas black women, we're a little different. We don't necessarily do the chase of other races. We may be like the whole Serena Williams thing, and how that came out in the media, as opposed to Nate Parker and stuff like that. Stuff that has been happening years and years and years with black men dating outside of their race, which is cool. I'm not here to tell you that if you marry a non-black person, then you're the devil or you're wrong. Love who you love. But my thing is, the disrespect, check it out the door. That's unnecessary. If you want to be with somebody else, that's fine. But I'm big on social media, and on Facebook, I see it every day. Particularly Rob Parks. I'm giving him a shout out.
We call them names out on the nitty gritty because we get down to it.
Musa Ali, all of them. Like I think what it is too, and I know this is getting into something else, but I don't know what it is as far as. Okay, we just seen the video what the numbers are, but the resounding, I guess the underlying issue would be, what is this clash between black men and black women, and why are we so divided? But that's getting into a whole nother thing. But getting back to this topic, I think that black men, I don't male bash. A lot of people say I male bash. I love men. I'm not male bashing. But I do like to challenge black men in particularly. I think you guys got to do a better job. And it's not a personal hit. Steve, Juan, none of you guys. You guys date sisters. Black love. But y'all just got to do a better job as far as I don't know if it be mom issues or sister issues. Somewhere along the line, a sister hurt a brother and he just, I don't want a black woman. It's like they go on these like tangents and like I don't know what it is, but some got to give.
I think you touched on a good point about home and how people were raised. I think that this whole dating issue starts at home. Okay. I think it's very important for black males to be present in a home. And when a black male is present in a home and he has a relationship, in this case with a black woman, it's very important for kids to see the black man loving the black woman, because then sons and or daughters are seeing their parents interacting in a loving way. But when you have a black single woman by herself, men in and out of the home, then if she has a son, he thinks, well, my mom's not married, she had multiple men in and out, it might be okay for me to be a Rolling Stone or what so have you. And then the girl might also see that as an example. Furthermore, when you have black women who are raising kids by themselves due to just the pressures of life, if you're not speaking love into your kids and you're talking about get your black A over here and what I tell you what to do, you know, that little black boy might feel as though his color is a problem or he is a problem, and he might have low self-esteem. So then now when he's older, now everybody is looking for love in the wrong place. And I feel as though when it comes to, you know, those men that you meet and they're like, well, I don't date black women because many of them have an attitude problem. Many of them neck roll. Many of them can't be submissive. Those are generalizations. And the problem that I have, and when you really talk to them, they're like, and I can't stand weave and I can't stand X, Y, and the third. On the flip side, when you have women who are natural, you don't want real natural hair, even though that the natural hair that you don't like is the natural hair that's growing from your head. So I'm trying to understand, what exactly do you want and what is the real issue? And when you talk to these, when you talk to people, whether it's a woman or a man that have these crazy generalizations or issues dating among their race, you will oftentimes find they came from a broken home. Mom and dad did not speak love into them. It's very important for parents to speak life over their kids. There's a way to correct and chastise your kids in a manner that's going to uplift them. But when you're cussing your kids out, that very volatile negativity that you're spewing into your son or daughter when they grow old, they then begin to communicate like that too.
Right.
And as a black people, and I'll get off my soapbox, it starts at home. From black business, from dating, to being successful, to loving relationships, to your relationship with Christ, whatever it is, it starts at home. We've got to start taking charge of these homes better. Black men absolutely have to be present in these homes. If you have kids and the baby mama is giving you grief, figure out a way to get involved in your child's life. Amen. If you see a child that's running the street doing whatever or disrespecting girls, let that young boy and or girl know there is a proper way to talk to one another, and just, you know, each one teach one. Yeah. Because when we just let people run around here and be little rascals, these little rascals grow up. Yeah. And if we don't take charge of our young people, the system will, because they already have a plan to put them in jail. Mm-hmm. So that's my soapbox. I know I went a little off, but I think dating and the lack thereof and this misnomer and or generalizations about black women being aggressive. Yes, black women are aggressive, but one thing I know about black women is that when we are loved properly, we tend to yield naturally. That's just biblical. We tend to submit naturally. Not all women do it easily, but when you got yourself together as a man, I have no problem with you being a leader.
That might be you. I don't know if I can generalize and give all women that credit. Before I jump in and make everybody mad on Facebook, yes, y'all could come for me. It's cool. I got tough skin. But Steve?
So, like with all of the topics, there are a lot of layers and a lot of issues here. One thing I know about men, and this has nothing to do with race, this is just because I am a man, is that the treatment of women, regardless of race, is cyclical, right? So you talk about the home. So it could be how your dad did it, your uncle, an older brother, a friend. How we see our peers or our elders treat women has a big impact on how we're going to do it, right? Whether it breeds success or not. And success for a man could be how many women he's able to bed, or, you know, if he's able to find himself a wife, right? So when it comes to interracial dating, I have absolutely no problem with this. And Juan and I, we talked about this last week. We were outside. I have no problem with interracial dating, but when you date in spite of your race, then that's a problem for me. So I think I can say that all black men don't date outside of the race in spite of black women. But to your point, there are a lot of them that do say, I don't date black women because XYZ, right? They're angry or they're not, whatever the case may be. So I think for black men, there's also an inability to court. We don't know how to court, and that can be as a reflection because we don't have the dads in the home or whatever, but black men don't know how to court properly, right? We don't know how to pick up the phone. When we contact you, we're always texting. We don't know how to court. We don't know how to, be a gentleman. I find it ironic that in the majority of relationships, at least the ones that I've seen, and even the ones I've been in, right, I'm putting myself out there, most women don't receive things like flowers until after they've given themselves up physically to most men. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with some issues here, especially with black men. We don't know how to court. And another thing, right, you put the onus on us, which I totally agree with. But when it comes to women, with a lack of requirements, there will be a lack of respect. Okay? So when a woman doesn't set forth those requirements, a black man especially, devoid of a black father, surrounded by all these examples of how not to treat women, that's already there. So with no requirement, there's going to be even less respect.
Get him.
Steve, and you hit on an important point there as far as black women having standards. But I got a question for you. Do you think as black men has become not spoiled, but I guess the dating playing field has been unbalanced a bit because when you have certain black women or just women in general that lower the standard?
Facts. So there's a reason why black women have lowered their requirements, right? Because the high standards black men aren't able to meet. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to say high standards. The standards that most black women have aren't even high. They're very normal and achievable standards.
Right.
But because we have so many of us not even able to meet the moderate level of those standards, black women then, because they love black men so much, are then forced to lower those standards. In D.C. alone, there are 15 single black women to every single heterosexual black male. So yes, he's spoiled. Why? Because he has options. So now you put in the white women, now you bring in the Asian women, the Latina women, the Middle Eastern women. So yes, the black man is spoiled. So I'm glad you brought that up. The lack of requirements that our black women are forced to deal with are because of us, because we aren't even able to meet the standards or how to be a head of household, how to be faithful, how to be honest, how to communicate. Right? These aren't hard tasks.
And I think
they're just hard for us, and whatever the case is for that, I don't know.
And as a black woman, from my experience, I think that even some of my female friends and cousins and stuff like that, it seems as though we're always very committed to black men, but that's one thing that's not symmetrical. They're not necessarily committed to us. They are very indifferent when it comes to the dating games. Like I don't discriminate. Whereas black women, numbers show, statistics show, history shows that we 9 times out of 10, a black woman wants to marry black. Not all black women, some are indifferent, which, looking at the dating atmosphere, maybe you should be. Nobody, you don't want to get to be 35, 40, you still ringless because you waiting on a brother to wife you up. If that brother ain't came, maybe look at other options. But I think too, in terms of the Katrina, you hit on the childhood. It starts at home, and I would agree. I think that starting at childhood, the disconnect and the conflict is widening so much. To by the time you get to of age and you're an adult and you're dating, I think we have so many. We're all a product of our experience. Mm-hmm. So from childhood, if you've seen your father disrespecting your mother, or even if your father wasn't present, that's still disrespect, even in his absence. Mm-hmm. So you're as a black daughter, you grow up to become a black woman, you probably already have a negative viewpoint of the black man, because one who was supposed to love you first, the black man that was supposed to love you first, which was your father, was absent. So you are already kind of starting off on the wrong foot. So I think a lot of times as adults, we come into, like I said, we're a product of our experience. We come into dating situations with negative outlooks sometimes because we are a product of our experience. Same thing with a black son that grows into a black man. If his mom was a single parent, his dad wasn't there, so he already seen disrespect to the black woman because his dad wasn't there. If he's seen his father, juggling a lot of women in front of with his mom being there, the disrespect is already inherent. So it's kind of already like, I don't want to say genetic, but it's like you start from a negative standpoint. So it's going to take a conscious brother and somebody in tune with himself to realize, you know what? Why do I see the world like this? Or you know what? Why do I disrespect a sister like this? Or why am I so indifferent to it? So I think when people become more in tune with self and love self, then I think then they would love, you know, love each other. But I think that it got to start with obviously the childhood. It starts with at home and it starts with self. And I think a lot of times brothers just show that it's a dead kind of line somewhere. I think a lot of brothers just really don't love themselves. And you can look at it like opposites attract, which is true sometimes. But I think a lot of times, I don't know, brothers just sometimes out of touch.
I agree with you. And it's crazy because even with all of that, the black woman still remains to be one of the most loyal beings on the earth.
Very loyal.
So we could talk about the childhood, and I'm going to let Juan go. But when at some point as a man, you have to own your own experience. And you can't keep putting that off on whatever childhood you had. Right, so loyalty. That's what a black. I mean, I know for a fact there are a lot of girls that I've cheated on, right, and they continue to take me back. Right, I'm putting myself out there. But if I catch you having lunch with another nigga, it's over.
It's over.
That's black
That's
men.
ego.
You know, so you know, even with all those things in the childhood, black women still remain loyal. And again, when you become a man, you can't keep harking back on what happened to your mom or with your dad. You have to own your own experience and how you treat other people. That's what part of being an adult is. So
my thing is, black women, we don't harp on stuff like that. We don't make generalizations or off of one bad experience. I ain't about to be like, well, black men don't take care of their kids because my father wasn't there. Or I ain't about to say like, oh, black men cheat because I got cheated on by a black man before. Whereas black men would go through certain experiences with black women and they count that off as being, oh, this black girl broke my heart, or this black girl I dated before was ghetto, and so all black women is ghetto, which is very immature and childish to me. But I'm like, what's wrong? I'll be looking at some guys on my Facebook, I'm like, somebody hurt him along the way, and he stuck right there.
Yeah, I do find, and I'm gonna let Juan go. I do find it.
No, you're not.
I am.
No,
I
y'all
am.
not.
I am.
No, y'all not.
I am gonna
Y'all
let you
keep
go.
on.
I am
I'm
gonna let
just
you
here.
go. But I do find,
Yeah, that's
find that a lot of black men, it'll be like one experience, and then they make a generalization.
Yeah.
And then for
Or
black
it could
women,
be 10 experiences.
For black women, usually it's a lot of experiences. And then finally, when if somebody from a different race comes into her life, is generally the reason why she's with him is not even on looks. It's because he just flat out treats her
right, and she
better.
still be reluctant though.
Yeah.
Like it's like, damn, I wanted to marry black, but this white brother treat me good. So I guess.
But yeah, I'm gonna let Juan go.
Well, I can't say I fully agree with everything that was said. Right? I'm gonna be that guy today, I guess. But so there's a point that I think should be brought up. Right now, I do agree with personal responsibility. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Steve, Tay, I think everybody touched on that, right? And then I also believe I highly agree with Kat when I think it starts at home. But then there's some things that come before home. And what I mean by that is systematic sets up. So, for instance, when you see a lot of like love that's not being demonstrated within the black community, you have to look at how black men have been systematically targeted since slavery, right? And then how they continue to find ways to move black men out of the home. When you're dealing with a situation of who gets the kids and all of that stuff, more often than not, litigation is going to work out in a way to make sure white men, Latino men, or maybe not always Latino men, but other men are going to be able to get in with their children. But a lot of times, you know, you'll hear people say, well, black men get around your kids, but then they don't see the other aspect of how women may be weaponizing having custody of children to, you know, for financial gain or just to be bitter, right? So that has to be considered too. And we have to see how our government, we have to all be woke, black women and black men have to be woke to how our government sometimes operates in a way that pulls black men out the home, and then the government becomes the new daddy.
Sometimes black men walk out the home voluntarily, though.
No, but we ain't gonna go with that, because at the same time, there's plenty of black men that get dragged away from the home, right? So we're not gonna discount that. We know there's some deadbeat dudes out there. Then also we gotta look at media and then what we're taking in. So one thing that used to bug me, and it still bugs me to this day, is you hear some ratchet music come on, right? And they're calling girls B's this, B that. They pouring champagne on the booty and everything like that. But then all the girls in the club, that's what they getting hyped to. That's what they playing on their radio. You drive down the street, every given time, women want love, people want respect. I feel like y'all should get it. I don't date with the others. I only deal with sisters. So I have the right to say it. So a lot of people will come for me, but then they don't even know nothing about me. Juan only deal with sisters. So, but it's plenty of sisters riding around listening to that ratchet music that's disrespecting them. And then at the same time, they're playing that around their sons. So their sons is like, there's a song that Lupe Fiasco did, and it was Bad B.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a great song because it talks about the double entendre that's going on when it's you're talking about I'm a bad B, and you know words that rhyme with average and cabbage and all that good stuff. But then, and your son sees that, so he's like, yeah, I want a bad B one day. Mama's pretty, mom's a strong woman. And so then the message gets distorted. So then when he goes to a girl, he's trying to call her a bad B. But then if a girl get called a B, she has a problem with it. But then these girls, these boys are seeing their mom dance to these songs. If the child was born in the 80s or later, there's a chance he might have grew up in a household where these kind of actions were glorified. And you can't dismiss that out the occasion. And we can't just start banging on black men's heads like that's a problem. Also, when we talk about just black women just wanting to be with black men, I know that is the case. I mean, from the statistical data, it happens. But then there's a lot of black women, though, that will give some brothers some flack. Or you'll have brothers out here that are really down, be like, yeah, baby, wear your hair curly. Yeah, baby, I like your hair natural. But sisters still want that weave. They still want that straight look.
Well, I think we're getting conflicted messages as well from, media, particularly. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously rap and hip-hop shouldn't be raising children. This I know. But at the same time, brothers is giving mixed messages as well because of, if you look at the narrative that's in our music, red bone, light skin.
But is that brothers or is that an ignorant type?
Yeah, no,
because think about it. Now, a lot of times when we look at these examples of brothers that just diss sisters, typically we find that within rappers. We find it again the basketball players, but then a lot of times the basketball players are just brothers who hit the lottery on genetics and then just happen to make it through the system to get there. Are these the people that really should be role models when you look at their inner homes?
You got doctors and lawyers that marry white as well.
No, but nobody glorifies the Herman Altars of the world. That's my dad. You know what I'm saying? Black man, he ain't nobody famous. No one special on a popularity scene, but at the same time, he was down for my mother, loved her, respected her, treated her like a queen. Now, as a result, me and my brothers, when we with a woman, that's how we treat them.
And that's beautiful,
right?
And we need more of that. You had a father though, so you are the product of a black boy that turned into a black man that had that good representation in the home. A lot of brothers don't have that perspective.
But there are more brothers than you think that have sometimes. They have that. And then my thing is, when you talk about that representation being in the home, we can't say the only answer to it is brothers don't want to be there. You got to also address a system that strategically finds the fastest reason possible to take a brother out.
I think that is a part, but I think we also
But we ain't gonna act like that's not a big part either.
We also can't ignore the brothers that are voluntarily not in the home though. Like, yes, there is a system in place, and sometimes it's not advantageous to the black man, but a lot of times the system don't even got to get involved to break a black man away from his family. He's just a willing walking away.
Or even the dudes who were raised in a two-family household. A lot of your college guys who look good on paper and are smooth, and they are some of the worst ones because they know they have their pick of all the women. But again, it's having that responsibility. And we can't make generalizations because it's about the heart. It's person to person. So everybody is different. There are some guys who will do a great job being monogamous and committed, and there are some women who will do the same thing, and then vice versa. There are some people who really don't know how to be monogamous and committed. It's person to person. It's about the heart. But I do think that I have to put it on black men. We just need men to step it up.
Yeah, we need y'all to care too.
But do they
I
need to
read
step
somewhere
it up, or do we need to change the dialogue? I'm sorry, do we need to step it up, or do we need to change the dialogue? Because see, when you look at media, they're showing one example of a black family, but then at the same time, we don't talk about those families we seen growing up in the military. I seen plenty of black men that were married to black men and stayed together. I go to Reed Temple North, shout out Reed Temple, where I see a bunch of black men with black women staying with their families. So this is happening across America, but that story doesn't get told on TV. We want to see struggle of.
I don't know if that's true. I read somewhere it said that black women is good for sex, non-black women is good for marriage. Ooh, so we always somebody's hitting secret seasons and hitting sexual desires, but we're never, I guess, valued enough to put a ring on it, which is problematic for me, particularly for our black men. That's profound to me. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, brothers all through college, high school have a black chick, then get to the league and it's time to go whitey.
Well, I wish this conversation could continue, but my man Jacob telling us to wrap up. But real quick before we get off, let's continue the conversation at home. Shantae, tell them where to follow us, where to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think it's done yet.
Yeah, definitely. We got to continue this on. You can follow us on Twitter at TBJ_the Black Juice or the Nitty Gritty, and you can also add us on Facebook at the Nitty Gritty 2017, and make sure you add our Instagram as well, the Nitty Gritty Show.
And Steve, tell them where to follow you if they want to get at you.
Yeah.
You know, sisters want to come for us.
I hope not. Jose's World on Instagram, Jose's World on Twitter. Yeah, so I appreciate y'all having me again. Great conversation.
Always.
Appreciate
Look,
that part of the
it just got
dialogue.
hot in here real quick. The temperature is 99 degrees. Look, thank you guys for tuning in today. Please message us, hit us up. We're going to be on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, continuing the conversation.
I'm putting this up tonight.
If you want to come at me personally or anybody, hey, look, it's fine, but let's continue that conversation, keep it rolling. And
Stay
this
black.
has been another
The Nitty Gritty
Show.
Show.
Hey.